And welcome back to the Bat Cave. Hope all is well with everybody and everybody is having a great week. This past weekend, DC Comics held a virtual event known as DC Fandome. It was a virtual event that is free for all to view via the DC Fandome website and YouTube. This is believe the second time that it's taking place. Initially, it took place in 2020 in response to the cancellation of that year's San Diego Comic-Con because of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. This event eventually became a platform to inform fans of upcoming DC-based content surrounding films, comic books, television series, and video games. As such, during this live feed on DC Fandome via their website or YouTube, special appearances by numerous celebrities appeared, including Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, John Cena, the cast of The Suicide Squad, James Gunn, and these are just to name a few. And throughout the 6 or 7 hour event, there were many news segments that surprised fans with trailers, information, release dates surrounding various things, and also even memorializing things that took place in the past. However, one of the things I really got a kick out of was actually right before the DC Fandome event began. On their channel, they had a live feed with various voice actors from Batman the Animated Series. Actually, specifically the spin-off Batman Beyond. So you had Kevin Conroy as, of course, the voice of Bruce Wayne and Batman. You had just other characters there, including Terry McGinnis, Talia al Ghul, and what they did was they reenacted scenes from some of the greatest episodes of Batman Beyond. One specific one, which had the reappearance of Talia al Ghul and Ra's al Ghul, as well as this whole skit where Batman the musical was taking place. So I found that quite entertaining to see all those voice actors coming together. Andrea Romano was the one who actually dictated what they'd be doing. She was actually the casting director the voice acting casting director on Batman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond, to name a few. So it was really great to see that. But once the DC Fandome event took place and began, it had an homage to various things. It opened up with the John Williams Superman theme. You saw Jack Nicholson's Joker, a scene from the '89 Batman, basically to welcome everybody. So some of the things I want to go through right now include like what content that DC Fandome consists of. First thing we saw was, and this has actually been eagerly anticipated, was information about the upcoming film Black Adam, which Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is in. Currently, it is in the post-production process, and it's going to be released on July 29th, 2022. They did give us a little snippet of what the film would look like and how The Rock would portray Black Adam. It really looks quite interesting. According to The Rock, this is going to revolutionize DC Comics and the way they appear on film. Who knows with what they're going for? Maybe this may be an Iron Man experience type. We'll see. The next thing we saw at the DC Fandome event, including the star of The Flash, Barry Allen. Specifically, The Flash is going to be ending on season 7. It reviewed season 7, and they're looking at season 8. My apologies, that was an error. They're looking at season 8 of The Flash, which is actually going to have the appearance of the golden boots that we see in the comic books. At one point, the DC Fandome did mention all of the Batmen because they reminded us that not only in the next year are we going to get one Batman film, not only one Batman film, but we're going to have two films that deal with various Batmen. And obviously they're speaking about Robert Pattinson's Batman, the return of Michael Keaton in The Flash, as well as Ben Affleck's return as Batman in The Flash. So that really is another thing that they brought up. There was a sequence that discussed Aquaman 2. There also was an analysis of this upcoming animated Aquaman series. There was then a talk about the analysis of something called Milestone Media, which focused on specifically black-owned comics. I found that to be incredibly informative. And through that, we found out that a live-action feature film of Static Shock is currently being developed, specifically produced by Michael B. Jordan. There also is a company called NGDC, which deals with next generation of comic book artists and writers. So they talked about that in depth as well. We also saw another piece of information about celebrity fans, how celebrating fans through cosplaying. So they showed images of fans from across the world that are cosplaying as their favorite characters, including Batman, Superman, the Joker, Green Lantern, the Flash, Superman, you name it. The next thing we saw was the Batman Wayne family adventures coming to exist. Specifically, not just focusing on Bruce Wayne. It's going to be this webtoon that has all the other characters of the Batman family. And this goes beyond Dick Grayson as Robin or Nightwing. It also could be focusing on Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne. Throughout the last several decades, there has been an abundance of characters that have made up the Batman family. And what I mean by the Batman family is not just Batman versus the villains, all the other characters that have aligned with him, that became part of the Bruce Wayne family. There was then a Q&A time with the Suicide Squad cast, specifically James Gunn, going over, how he loved making this most recent installment in the Suicide Squad, and how it was great to have various characters come to exist, and how he was able to have fun throughout the entire production process. This then led into the discussion with John Cena of the spin-off known as Peacemaker, which is the character he portrays in the recent Suicide Squad movie. So as I said, there was a Q&A via Instagram and Twitter, and they also showed exclusive content about what this will look like with John Cena getting his own series as Peacemaker. There was a behind-the-scenes look at Season 2 of Superman and Lois. And Supergirl is now in its 6th and final season. So they had what was known as a farewell tribute, which, celebrating the last 6 years for the analysis of Supergirl and how she's made a big difference in the world of DC Comics. They then showed the end of season clip for Stargirl and an analysis of an upcoming show called an animated show called My Adventures with Superman. Moving away from television series, DC Fandome then took a look at specifically what's taking place in comic books. Specifically, DC editor Jim Lee had Action Comics News indicate that the World update of Action Comics 136 would be available in comic stores on Tuesday, October 26th. Once again, that is the War World update, which takes place in Action Comics 136. I know I had a little bit of difficulty saying that. And that will be available that day on the 26th. They then went over to look at and analyze Superman's new motto. Since 1938, Superman's motto has always been truth, justice, and the American way. DC Comics has now decided that it is best that Superman's motto change to where he says, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. So, very interesting about that. They then had something called Mexica hats, which are very expensive fedora hats that have a DC Comics Superman logo in them. They're made specially made for people who have an interest in wearing the emblems and those specific types of hats. In looking at the price, I was actually amazed that they cost over $750 per hat. You can find that on the Mashika Hats website. They then had DC League of Super Pets sneak peek. This is going to be an animated film based on the pets that the various members of the Justice League own. Specifically, right off the top of my head, I know Crypto, the Super Dog, which is Superman's dog, will be in it, and Ace the Bat Hound, which of course is Batman's dog. Dwayne the Rock Johnson will be voicing Crypto, and Kevin Hart will be voicing Ace. The film will be released on May 20th, 2022. In addition, DC Fandom also released some information surrounding newest series on HBO Max, Doom Patrol, which I found to be extremely important in analyzing, because it's great to just see once again those characters from the Legion of Doom coming to exist in their own realm. Then, and this was probably one of my favorite moments of DC Fandom, we had Ezra Miller come on screen and indicate that the Flash film is still in production. They do not have a trailer yet, but then they showed a small sneak peek of what the film is going to look like. And one of the things that I probably took away that really excited me was, as soon as the trailer the sneak peek wasn't a trailer of the Flash began. You heard the '89 Batman music when they're in the Batcave. B, you hear Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne talking to the Flash. And C, you see the shadow of him at the end of that sneak peek in his Batman outfit, in that type of silhouette with his cowl. And you also see the '89 Batmobile, which really made me happy. At some certain point, because I was so excited, I started screaming in the house. My wife actually had to calm me down. But when you've been waiting for Michael Keaton's return as Batman for over 32 years, you could see why someone would be so excited. There were also other moments throughout the several hours of DC Fandom that I found very interesting. Specifically, there was a segment referring to a new program called The Other History of the DC History Universe. This is specifically something written by someone called John Ridley, and it's basically about stories that haven't always been told about certain characters that exist in the DC comic universe, including Black Lightning, Mal and Karen, Bumblebee, The Question, and Katana, who actually was in the first Suicide Squad film. The fandom went into analyzing the upcoming animated Injustice film, which is of course based on the two Injustice video games that have become widely popular for followers of DC Comics. There was also some information about the Blue Beetle movie that is going to be coming out in a couple of years, so they're already getting ready to do that. That's a character that I'm a little not as clear about in terms of his history, because I'll be honest, I don't know much about the Blue Beetle, but in time I will. My main focus right now is to become better informed about the Flashpoint film storyline, because I heard the Flash film is based on the Flashpoint comic or graphic novel, so I will continue to immerse myself in that. Before I did close out DC Fandom, because I did have other things that day I had to do, I was able to capture a glimpse at the Smallville anniversary. It now is moving on 20 years since the premiere of Smallville, which is basically the story of Clark Kent in Smallville, Kansas. And I always enjoyed watching that show. Probably one of my most memorable scenes from that show was in season 2, when they passed basically the torch from Christopher Reeve to Tom Welling, who portrayed Clark Kent. I found that to be probably one of my most favorite moments. So, what are some of the major? That is just some of the major news that came out of the DC fandom event. There are other stories, but if I was to do that, I'd probably be here for quite a few hours. But that's some just of the major pieces of news that I was able to gather from analyzing and listening to DC fandom here in the Batcave. So, what are the major takeaways that I did see? Well, as I said, there was a trailer. There was some film clips of the Flash, but then they did release a new trailer for the upcoming The Batman film, which will be which will be being released on March 4th, 2022. That actually I found to be really exciting and engaging because I was not sure how Robert Pattinson would be able to pull off portraying both Bruce Wayne and Batman. You know, we see Robert Pattinson, and of course I think of this Twilight series, and also think of him as Cedric Diggory from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So it's interesting to actually see him in a Batman costume and portraying Bruce Wayne. So based on that trailer, I actually am really excited for the release of The Batman. This looks like a great new addition in the expanding universes that we've seen Batman in throughout the series of films over the last 30 to 40 years. So I'm curious to see how this is going to look. And I'm also curious to see the plan that DC Comics may have and Warner Brothers may have in the years to come, as they probably are going to make several films based on that incarnation of the Dark Knight. My lasting impressions of the DC fandom was I found it to be very informative and engaging regarding the online assembly of updates for both DC Comics, Warner Brothers, and HBO Max. As I said, the key to understanding the importance of this online event was that it is in response to the fact, once again, that San Diego Comic-Con did not take place in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. So I'm curious to see where the online format goes in the years ahead as we move away from the COVID pandemic. Will DC and Warner Brothers continue to do this as an open forum online? Or is this possibly going to become a live open event where people come and participate in the DC fandom? Just very similar to how Disney releases what's called the D23 Expo every year to indicate what programs or films, what's taking place within the world of Disney. So I'm curious to see if DC Comics takes from that or if they keep the online format. That's about it for this week. I would like to thank everybody for joining me this evening. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to leave a comment, and always like and subscribe to Larry's Batcave. We will be back again next week. Hope everybody's doing well. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.